Hey guys, if you haven't got the news yet, I have decided to go a different direction in my life. I am leaving computer, whatever, for the rest of my life. I'm not doing that anymore. And you might be thinking, why? And you might be thinking, well, are you giving up? And no, the answer is no. And there have been questions around this, and I am going to answer them. First of all, I am going to college with a major in criminal justice and a minor in psychology. And I'll tell you why later. But right now, I want to speak about why I have decided to go this direction. Well, about 2 weeks before my birthday, I said when I turn 24, I want to be doing something different. I say that every year, but there was something different about this one. And it wasn't just a push to make me to do something different. I had to be convinced with something I wanted to do for a while. And well, I was minding my own business one day, and I was just, and this thing starts to build up. If you know the story, it's a very long story, but it started getting bigger and bigger. And I was like, well, this is something interesting. This interests me. I'm excited to do something like that. And I've decided to go into that. And of course, I would be becoming a police officer, law enforcement. And your question might be, well, you have talked about building things, having visions to create things that other people could use. Uh, what's happening here? Well, it's not done in vain. I will say that. 6 years ago, when I was 19, I started this computer stuff. I was working commercially at a hotel. Then the next month, I was working another one. So things were looking pretty good there. The thing is, it got boring. Things started to repeat themselves. It felt more like I was babysitting more than anything else. And it was just, and I couldn't do it. But when I was doing this, figuring this stuff out for the last few months, it started to remind me of what I wanted to do when I was younger. And of course, when I was 5, I wanted to be a computer programmer. But when I was 16, I was reading about criminal justice, police stuff. And this kind of what was going on rekindled the fire of a mass multitude, if you will. And we would just, I just wanted to do something different. And it reminded me of what I wanted to do back then. It wasn't until I was a junior in high school, when I was a junior in high school, I was a volunteer. Uh, well, I wasn't a volunteer. I was a student council. And I was doing that when I was a junior. And I was in student council for 2 or 3 years in high school. But when I was involved with criminal justice, a lot of people don't know this, but I was in criminal justice class for 2 months. And that was a bit of an accident. When I was in a work program, to have a work program, you've got to have a job. And how that works is you go to school for half the day, the other half you go home. You just got to have a job. And that was every day, half days. So I lost my job because I didn't like working in a bakery. And apparently I didn't like working hourly wages either. So the counselor calls me in his office and says, well, we got to get you out of work program. I was like, okay. And he said, we got to pick another elective. You have one or two choices, and most people would, you know, pick the other one. Anyways, when I was in um, in his office, he said I can only pick one elective. It had to be either electronics or it had to be criminal justice. And I'm already thinking, well, this is the perfect opportunity to really get inside and it was really something I really wanted to do. So he said, criminal justice, or do you want to do electronics? I said, and I already had it in my mind, but I was training to think about it because the counselor called my mom, and she said I wouldn't be interested in criminal justice. And the reason why that is hard, but I don't want to get into that. But when after I left that counselor's office, I was like, oh man, I don't want to be seen as someone who betrayed my family. And I was about to walk back in there and say, I want to do electronics. But I figured I'd do something different that no one else, that other people would not do, and do this. Do what I want to do. And it's different than being arrogant. It's one thing to be arrogant. It's one thing to be an asshole. It's a whole completely different level when you want to, well, not really want to, but when you betray your own family. That's bad. Don't do that. But I figured, well, I'll be in this class for 2 months, and I can keep a secret. And I kept that secret for 6 years. 6 years, and I didn't tell anybody what I wanted to do. And so after my junior year, because my senior year, of course, and I felt like I had to suppress that criminal justice stuff. So I take computer maintenance, and let me tell you, it was boring. I failed the class, because mainly the teacher that originally taught that class for 35 years, he retired that year. Well, the year before that, really, or whatever. Anyways, and the old electronics teacher was teaching that class, and I learned nothing. We learned nothing. It was boring, and it was boring. And anyways, so I should have just went to criminal justice after that, but senior year, I didn't really care. I was just leaving high school. The only thing we worried about. So when I graduated high school, I volunteered at a hospital for almost 2 years, and I liked that. And I felt, well, I was a student counselor, so I can do that. And I did it. It was fun. And it wasn't until when I was 19, and this is, 19, and I started doing computer work. And, I learned a lot about that Steve Jobs stuff. I read a lot about Steve Jobs, about doing what you love to do and doing all that. Stay hungry, stay foolish. Innovation distinguishes a leader from a follower. And I got all that. The problem was I was reading that, but I didn't actually understand what that meant. When I became interested in law enforcement, I started to use words like vision and goals and innovation, intuition, opportunity. I used all these words about changing things and really understanding me more than I was doing with computers. More about doing business. I learned business. I learned emotional intelligence, self-awareness, resilience, self-improvement, vision, goals, all that. And it was something I could actually apply myself with. It was variety, exciting, and I could help impact people's lives. Not just put them in jail, of course, because it's more than that, but also to help people. And it sounds cliche, but what I particularly want to do is drug patrol, rough patrol, whatever you want to call it, in schools. Not to ruin their lives, but to give them a second chance. Not look down on them, throw them under a bus, because I don't believe in looking down on others. I don't believe in, I've always talked about inspiring people. And of course, but people don't think of a police officer as someone who inspires or becomes a leader or any of those things, but really you are. In my case, I used to think creating the future and using the future was the only way to impact people's lives. But then when I started to get interested in this, I was like, wait, I have a vision about what could happen if I'm not there, or if someone isn't noticing something, if someone's not aware of what's happening, that things could happen. And instead of creating the future, I had to prevent the future from happening. Because I did not want to see a future like that. So it was a complete 180 degrees of how I viewed things. And it was interesting. I was like, wow, it made me think. And I really wanted to do that. But it's more than that. I'm flexible. J-turns, police cars, and of course, donuts. A lot of stuff like that. Fun stuff. Detective work. Working even outside of schools to get information. My goal is to get a police dog, canine unit. Fun, and have a partner like that. And I thought, wow, that's something I could really do. And of course, I'm not gonna be easy on a lot of people. Of course, I'd be doing interesting stuff. I'm not ready yet, but I'm building up mentally, physically, emotionally, and it's interesting because I had all the resources in front of me. I had the books that I'm reading now, but I also had the people in high school who I was friends with, and they were doing drugs. I also know some ex-drug dealers who you don't. And of course, the people I know who did drugs in high school, they do relapse, but they're all getting help. And those people help tremendously, getting some insight on what's going on. And insight, that's another word. But, tremendous helping me out. Of course, and, I get accounts from all different sides, from different people. So it's not just one person, it's just not my patterns and my awareness that I'm basing it on, but I'm also seeing this side that other people are doing. And I also visit drug rehab places, which I also enjoy doing. So I just love doing it. And then we got the other side. We got the suspicions. We got the real life scenarios that are going on. I know people actively who are doing drugs. They're not friends of mine, but I do know them. And and they're kids. They're kids. They make mistakes. To be expected. But I don't look down on people. But of all the people that I know who have done drugs and currently doing drugs, meth is on the highest end of that. It's high. It's way up there. No pun intended, but it's way up there. And what's going on, and it's a problem. And I think the numbers that, like, I can't even think right about that. It's like I want to say 6 or 7 people, and that's pretty much almost all the drug. As far as I know, of all the people who do drugs, the ones I know for sure that do meth, and even heroin, but meth, all of them. It's most people that I know who do drugs do meth as well. It's not everybody, but it's most of them. And looking at my life, that's bad. Speaking of my life, I have no regrets. I'm interested in everything. I'm excited to do this. I would never trade my life for someone else's. No, I love what I'm about to do for people. But but drugs aren't the only thing that I handle. That I've been handling over here. You know, real life, online, suicides. That's teen issues. But some of them aren't just teen issues. But suicides are another thing that I've had to handle and figure out and say, okay, what would the pattern to understand people to do that? And it just, you know, but I think the number suicide slash attempts in total is at 5. Not each one is 5, but in total, suicide slash suicide attempts is 5 this year alone. There was another one from last year, so it's 6 altogether. But it's a different way to view life. Look at the background of life. I was just, training it's about training and things, and it's tough sometimes, because when I get told about drugs, we got to immediately switch over to someone's friend who's talking about killing themselves. So you got to switch over, and that's difficult. And if that and I can understand how that can be a problem for police officers, because you have to quickly adapt. Not adapt. You got to quickly switch completely different gears, trying to get over something else, and so you're constantly flooded. And when you do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be trained to be counselor, a police officer who's also a counselor, basic counseling. So, yeah, homelessness, a lot of drugs, and just opportunity. Always go for opportunity. Always improve yourself, because you might end up somewhere. I never thought. I was interested in criminal justice and and hating drugs when I was 16. Learning about drugs and all this, but it was very basic knowledge. And I said, well, I'm never going to do this. But it wasn't until now, it slowly came back to me, and I was like, wow, I can't connect the dots looking forward. I could only connect them backwards. So you might be thinking, well, how did I get from computers to coming a cop when those two don't, especially when you're not even doing computer science in college instead of psychology. Well, now that I hopefully know by what I told you, you understand that, wait, that makes sense. So, and I never thought I'd be the person who said, don't follow your passion. Because if I didn't follow my passion, I would never learn about leadership. And looking at another side of law enforcement. And it's just, so don't settle. If you're young, if you're 20, 25, you might find something different when you're 30. So, have an adventure. Always keep looking, always take inspiration. What inspired me to do this was I have a friend who's related to a police officer. And I want to be just like him. Someone who didn't look down on people. Someone who had respect for people. And I was like, wow. Someone who has that much patience to do that. And I saw a different side of things. And I was like, I really want to do that. So I'll talk to you guys later. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, suggestions, any of that, I'd be happy to hear them. But I am at the point where if you call for computer repairs, I'm not going to call back unless you leave a voicemail. I'm at that point. So, and it's going to be completely over. it by July. So, talk to you guys later. And just keep searching for whatever you do in life. I guess it is true that intuition comes from within, and you just gotta keep searching for things. So, I hope you learn something from this, and I'll see you guys later. Just keep doing what you're doing and keep searching. Bye.